Hey, so I hope that you're all well. Now this, God, why do I do this to myself? So obviously the last response to my video was incredibly touching, touched my heart, touched my soul. So many of you left such brilliant comments about Marcus and I really appreciate that you took the time out to watch the video and understand. And following on from that, my inbox just got inundated with messages from girls who were in a similar situation, and actually I had a mix of feelings. One, I was shocked of how many messages there were and how nice they were, but number two, I was surprised that so many girls were in the same situation. Obviously I did not think I was the only one in the world, but the fact that you felt so comfortable messaging me about it, and I really appreciate that because I would like to be someone that could help. It's hard to reply to everyone. It's hard to, sit down and write a personal message to everyone just because I don't want to copy and paste the same thing to the girls, because obviously your lives matter. But instead of obviously sitting there and going through all these messages, maybe someone's too shy to message me, or maybe someone's too shy to talk to anyone. It doesn't have to be me, and obviously I can't always be there for everyone. I thought I would just do a video on my story and how I told my family about Marcus. So hopefully this helps some of you that are in a similar situation. If not, it gives you a bit of an idea. Everyone's family is different. Now, with the whole idea of Marcus joining my family would be a big situation, I'm sure, for anyone to deal with two different races. With me, I had to, first of all, I had to be sure about Marcus, and Marcus had to be sure about me, which we were. So for me, my biggest support was probably my sister. My eldest sister is who I spoke to first. Now with me, in Asian families, you don't talk about boys. So the whole even building it up to tell your family there's a boy in your life is scary. Any Asian family I know, you don't talk about boys. You don't even know. You could be 25, you still don't know what a boy is. I think me and my sister were out for food. We were sat down, and I think she was asking me how my life was, and I just thought, you know what, now's the time, probably just test the waters and just slip it straight in there. And she's like, so how's your life going? I was like, yeah, I've met someone. After I immediately said those words, I couldn't believe that they actually came out of my mouth. I was like, oh, because once you start that, there's no going back. You have to be sure that this is the way it's going to go. Alhamdulillah, I'm really lucky that with Marcus, that was the way that it was meant to happen for us. I told my sister, she was like, who is it? So for me, the most important details would just tell about how much a good person he is and what his character was like, and then obviously the main detail that he was white. So I was telling her, I was like, oh, he's really nice, and then I just had to come out and I was like, oh, and he's white. If you're not from an Asian family, it might be a little bit harder to understand, but these type of situations can be daunting, and if you're from an Asian family, you know exactly what I'm on about. So with that being said, I was like, oh, what's her reaction going to be? And she 100% surprised me. She was very supportive. She didn't say anything that put me off. She was like, that sounds great, and just asked me loads of questions. And then the one question I was dreading, what do you think Mum will say? And I was like, oh, I literally have no idea. At this point, I couldn't even think of a scenario. I couldn't even imagine how it would go. From then on, I obviously was just looking for my sister's support. I was like, okay, I need to tell Mum, how should I do it, what should I do? And that story started. So let me set the scene for you guys. Marcus and I were talking, and we were like, you know what, it's probably about time that you do, think about telling your family. And we didn't have a plan of, oh, we're gonna get married by this time, or we'll buy a house by this time, whatever. We just wanted to see. It was in God's hands, and I was building myself up to do it. A week before I actually told my mum, she was in the kitchen. I remember sitting in the living room, and something had happened. I can't quite recall what it was, but I think the best thing to do is sort of test the waters in these situations. My friend was over at the time, and we were just having a general conversation. I just started off just slightly. I was like, how marriages work and whatever it was, really out of the blue. I was like, oh, I should just marry whoever I want. At the end of the day, Mum, if it's written for me, it's written for me, whoever it may be. And she was like, yeah, that's whatever. I think she just sort of brushed me off, because I was the type of person that never spoke about marriage. I was so not against it. I think I just had quite a bad perception of it. But yeah, she's like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, oh, Mum, it shouldn't even matter. They could be black, they could be white. I was like, it's the good job is in our religion there, as long as anyone's Muslim, welcome everyone. And then literally after that, I just started dropping subliminal messages to my mum. I don't know whether she ever picked up on these or not. Then moving on a couple of days forward, I was back at work. Now this was completely unplanned, but in my head I kind of had an idea that I would want Marcus to meet my parents that weekend. Well, my mum at the very least. I just decided, I was at work, Marcus was like, have you said anything? And the pressure's building up and I'm just like, oh, I've not said anything yet. Anytime I went to speak to my mum, my heart just dropped and I just changed the conversation. Or anytime I thought that, okay, I finally plucked up the courage to do this, something would come up. Now for me, it was just heart-wrenching at the fact that I had to tell her, just the fact that telling her that I wanted to get married was heart-wrenching. True dance. Is that what it was?
What am I celebrating?
Me. Having to just have a discussion about marriage itself was daunting, never mind the fact that obviously I had to introduce her to a scenario that she'd probably never imagined that she'd be in. With that being said, I tried for a couple of days and nothing was happening, and the pressure's building up, then Marcus asked me what's happening, but he was asking me to obviously to be supportive. One day I was just at work and I was like, you know what, I just need to get this over with now. If I don't do it now, it's just never going to happen. And with me, I never built a scenario in my head of what could happen, because if I did that, I would have got lost in that. If I thought, well, what to do if this happens, what to do if that happens, in my head, I genuinely thought everything is in God's hands. Like, whatever happens is meant to be. Like, whether this works or whether this doesn't work, and I need to accept that. I need to do the best that I can in that situation and then move forward with whatever God hands me. And I remember going inside and my mum, as usual, was just like pottering about. I had to get to work. I had like 15 minutes left and I was like, I've still not done it, because the whole time I was in the house like, when should I do it, when should I do it, when should I say something? And then I sat down and my mum was on the phone. And I was like, oh, I need a conversation to end. I need to get back to work. I need a conversation to end. And you know what mums are like, once on the phone, they're on there. I was literally on the edge of the seat. I couldn't sit down properly. I was like, oh, I need to say something, So she'd got off the phone, just started the conversation. I didn't plan it. The words were jumbled. I just rambled and blurted everything out. It just came out of my mouth. And honestly, I think that's probably the best thing to happen, just because if I thought about it too much, it would have seemed like too calculated or whatever it is. It just wouldn't have seemed natural. And I think the best thing you can do for your parents in that situation is obviously just to be natural, so it's a calm environment. So doing that, I was like, Mum, do I have to marry a Pakistani? And that was the first words that came. I was like, do I have to marry a Pakistani? And she was like, what? Like, what is this girl talking about? Like, Mum, do I was like, surely if they're Muslim, I was like, that's all that counts, that's all that matters. And she's just like stayed silent. And to me, I was just getting so nervous and like, you know, you're just like shaking on the inside. And I just remember I was getting so hot, I was shaking. I was like, I've never felt like this before. She was like, well, what's wrong with Pakistanis? I was like, no, there's nothing wrong if I don't want to. Like, what if I want to meet, what if I want it to be someone else? And she's like, well, you know, there's enough Asians out there. I was just like, yeah, no, but you know, what if it's not? And she stayed quiet. I remember her looking forward and I was just looking at her. For some reason, I just overcame with like emotion. So I just remember like my eyes started getting a bit teary and I got really emotional about it. And I was just so nervous, my heart was pounding. I want someone to come to our house on Saturday. She just sort of stayed quiet a little bit. Also, I was like, oh, so Mum, what are you doing on Saturday? And she just stayed quiet and I was like, Mum, and she just stayed quiet because I think she was in shock. She wasn't sure she must have had an inkling of what was going to come out of my mouth next, but I think she was trying to like prepare herself, and she at that point was just shocked. And I just remember she wasn't really looking at me much. She was just like concentrating as though like she's trying to process what I was saying. And at that point I had tears streaming down my face and I was trying to keep it straight. And I don't know why, I was just so emotional, and it wasn't like she had a bad reaction, just a little bit shocked, which obviously you can be. And if anyone's out there saying, oh, my mum's being unfair, that's not true. It's just, if you have been brought up in an Asian household, you completely understand that. And she didn't say much, and I was like, Mum, so I had to be a little bit persistent to like try and get answers out of her. And the only thing I really remember from that point was just like, she was like, what's wrong with Asians? And I was like, there's nothing wrong with Asians, like, but if they're Muslim, it should be fine. Sometimes a parent's natural reaction is to think about culture and to think about the community. So what you have to do is try to bring them to that space where what they do is put the religion first. And with that being said, it was just a case of just reiterating to my mum that think about it in this aspect and not in that aspect. This is literally such a hard video to do because anything I say, someone will find something bad in it, and that is not my intention at all. I'm just telling you my story what you take from it is up to you. I think the silence was what was hurting me the most, was just because I didn't know whether she was angry, I didn't know whether she was okay with it. I didn't know whether, you know, she had any thoughts on it, or whether she was just shocked that I was talking about marriage, or whether she was shocked that it was about someone who was white. And then I was like, you know, I really had to go because I was running late off lunch. So I remember just getting into my car and I just like started driving. And then I was just like crying. I was such an emotional wreck because I just had this conversation, but it didn't really go anywhere. I think it was a shock for my mum, and she had to process that moment about what it was that I just told her. So on my way going, I remember texting my other sister. I just told mum about Marcus, and you know, reaction was, there wasn't really much of a reaction. And you know, my sister was like, just give it time. That day I went home and I went straight to my room. I just wanted to pretend that I didn't have that conversation. And the next day I was out on lunch again, and my mum has a favourite daughter. One of my older sisters is her favourite daughter, and she's ringing me and she's like, so what has mum told me, that you're bringing someone on Saturday? I am. I was like, she never agreed to anything. Then she completely shocked me. She went, yeah, she went, am I coming as well? And I was like, what is going on? That, for me, that moment, I think my mum just needed time. My mum confides in my sister a lot, and obviously they're really like close, and that's her favourite daughter. I don't know why. She said to me, she went, yeah, mum told me, and I didn't know whether I expected her support or not. I told mum, look, it's completely normal, it's, you know, as long as he's Muslim, it shouldn't matter. And my sister sort of helped with that situation, and honestly I did not expect it, because she wasn't the sister that I told. And she was like, oh yeah, you know, I've told it happens these days, let's meet him, let's see what happens, and we'll take it from there. In all honesty, I think she sort of saved me in that situation, because I like blurted this information out to my mum, left her to digest it, didn't tell her anything else, and then she must have obviously called my sister up and was like, you know, she said anything to you or whatever, or they're just having a chat. And luckily for me, my sister was on my, not on my side, because it wasn't really a side thing, but she saw the situation for what it was and was fully supportive. And I think she really reiterated that in my mum's mind as well, just to make her think, not think in like a cultural sense, not for her to think in like what community will say sort of way. So with that being said, that was my mum down. The next couple of days, obviously leading up to the weekend, we didn't really talk much about it. The day came that Marcus came to my house. So obviously what had happened on that morning, I woke up, I was like, there's no, you know, mum's not really confirmed anything, what time she expect him, so I was just like shouting stuff. I was like, alright, so will everyone be ready? And I was just talking to whoever was listening. I was like, so will everyone be ready for about 1? My mum was cooking some stuff, and I didn't know whether she was just cooking anyways, whether she was cooking to be nice to Marcus. I got Marcus, and before we got into the house, we were just so nervous, and we just sat in the car just to take a minute for ourselves. I was like, right, okay, you know, my sister said that my dad won't be home, it's probably best for you to meet mum first, and then obviously mum will have a conversation with dad and we'll take it from there. Sat down, and my mum was busy in the kitchen. I think she was avoiding the situation at that point. We expected my dad to be out, so just as, you know, it's a bit awkward, we're all sat there not really knowing what to say to each other, and we're like, well, this is new. Next thing we know, we heard the door unlock. No, my dad's walked in, and we were just like, I didn't prep for any of this that I was going through, but I definitely did not prep for that to happen. My dad just sort of came in and sat down, and my dad's a very polite man, so obviously they gave salam to each other, and he was talking to Marcus a little bit. It was becoming apparent that obviously Marcus wasn't leaving the house, because we'd sat there for a little bit. And then my dad was just sort of asking him what he does and whatnot. My mum had started to get the table prepped for dinner. My dad was like, who is this? Who is this? I was like, oh, I'll tell you in a minute. Do you remember how nervous it was?
It was for you. Like, her dad went and sat down first, so I followed suit and sat down next to him, within punching distance. But then your mum came in and said, obviously, tell your dad, innit? Tell your dad who I am. You were probably the palest I've ever seen you. After her mum said that, Irsa was like, Dad, but he was talking to me, so like we were deep in conversation, so he wasn't paying attention. To her other sister to then just go, Dad!
Yeah, she's like, Dad! Listen, Dad!
Dad! Who do you think he is? Why do you think he's here? This blunt, honestly, like my heart was in my throat.
Blunt. My family is very blunt. He wants to marry Irsa, I think is what she said. Oh, he wants to marry Irsa. And my dad looked at Marcus, obviously because he'd got to know him as a person first. He obviously found out that he was a Reva. He got to know him as a person first. He looked at Marcus and he went, welcome to the family.
He was just like, if he's Muslim.
Yeah, honestly, my dad's reaction probably warmed my heart the most. Everyone got talking. We did obviously have to have realistic conversations with my parents at that point. Now, it's not always as easy as introducing the idea to someone and then introducing someone to your parents, and then you think that it's just all good from there. You have to put a lot of hard work and a lot of effort in. Now, unbeknown to me, I had no idea that this was even something in Marcus's head at the time, but the amount of respect I have for him is unreal. We were sat down and obviously he's answering my mum's questions. He's putting the effort in. He's making the effort to talk to my parents. He just treated her with nothing but respect. And a lot of the times I didn't even have to explain certain things to him. His main concern was me and was my family. And he just wanted to make sure that I was okay. And I'm so grateful I had someone who wanted to make it as easy as possible for me. And he didn't ever make me feel like, oh, you know what, well, your family's not as welcoming as mine, so you need to sort this out. He put in that work, and I had no idea he was going to say this, and he actually turned around and said to my mum, at the end of the day, if you're not happy with this, then we're not going to do it. I had no idea he would say that, but that didn't hurt me. If anything, it just made me realise even more I was doing the right thing. I had someone who had so much respect for my parents that he actually turned around and said, if your parents aren't happy, you know, it's not something that we should do. Honestly, I just can't explain to you how much that meant to me, so thank you for that. There could be 101 videos made from this, and I think the next best thing to do would be obviously to help anyone else out there is maybe to do a Q&A, because my story won't have answered everyone's questions, but if you want to see a Q&A, and I'd be happy to answer questions as honestly as I can for you, I'd be happy to do that. Just let me know, and that's something that I can work on. Alhamdulillah, we are happy and everything got sorted in the end. Obviously Mark's got to know my parents more, and I think now they prefer him over me, which was inevitable because I was never a favourite anyway. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video helped you in some way. It was just my story. I don't think it, you know, could necessarily solve everyone's problems. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.